Hi, this is Susan Schrader, and this is my presentation on cooperative learning. First, let's cover what is cooperative learning. Del Shunk defined cooperative learning as students working together in small groups cooperatively to learn. I think it is imperative to emphasize here that this model calls for students to collaborate and cooperate in small groups to actually learn something, not just do something. The educational theorist Lev Vygotsky emphasized the importance of social interactions for learning. His social learning theory focused on how learning is enhanced, supported, and even given depth based on how learners engage with each other and the academic material. In and through these interactions, learners construct their understanding of the world around them. As is the case with many educational perspectives, cooperative learning has both advantages and disadvantages. Some of the advantages are evidenced in its aptitude for supporting diversity in the classroom. This diversity can relate to special needs, cultural diversity, or even learning styles. Some downsides to cooperative learning mostly relate to the sheer magnitude of careful planning and prep work that teachers must do in order to effectively and efficiently incorporate cooperative learning into their classroom repertoire. Thinking ahead to address grouping of students and providing for a solid structure are two major concerns to consider. In order to effectively incorporate cooperative learning into the classroom, 5 key areas have been identified which warrant careful consideration: cohesive groupings, ability levels, guidance and structure, group goals, and support for diverse learners. We'll touch on these a little more deeply in just a second. In order to have cohesive groups working cooperatively together, Shunk suggests that you should group the students according to their personalities, their work ethic, their attitudes. In short, don't group students together who normally bicker and fight. You want to avoid that in the classroom. Also, allowing students to choose their own groups could really unravel quickly as buddies pair up and someone may feel left out or on purpose leave someone out to just get back at someone for something. We really want to avoid those things in the classroom. So careful consideration for how you group your students is crucial to the success of cooperative learning in your classroom groups. On the topic of ability level grouping, I really feel like the verdict is still out here. Some theorists suggest that grouping like abilities together is the perfect thing to do. Other theorists suggest that perhaps it's best if you have lower students grouped together with higher level students. Still others suggest that perhaps you should have a low, a medium, and a high level student grouped together for efficiency, that the low will be carried along, so to speak, by the higher achieving student. I guess critics would say that the higher achieving student really may not get anything out of the relationship with a student who is lower functioning or lower ability level. One could say that you could improve humanitarian efforts by helping higher achieving students and lower achieving students to work together cohesively to help to teach tolerance and acceptance, and that we need to embrace each other rather than, try to shun or cast aside. Do what works for you in your classroom. When it comes to guidance and structure, Slavin suggested that we should follow some very simple yet impactful guidelines. You should have well-defined goals. Set clear expectations for the students and what they are supposed to do, how you want them to complete the work, in what order should the assessment be completed, what each person, each member of the group is expected to accomplish. It's very important, according to Slavin, that there is individual accountability. So even though it's a group project, every person who participates in that group needs to be held accountable for their portion of the work, so that, no one's just riding the coattails of another, letting someone else do all the work, and you're just sitting back collecting a grade. It's also very important to encourage, model, and insist upon respectful discourse while the groups are working together. If things become heated and there becomes an argument, you need to step in and guide that group back toward respectful discourse. And finally, the teacher in a cooperative learning environment serves mostly as a facilitator. I say we as educators, we set up the experience, we provide the supplies, we set the stage as far as the scope and the sequence of our curriculum, and where does this activity fit in. And then as the students are working, we are not there holding their hands going step by step, but rather monitoring, supervising, ensuring that they're staying on track, that they're getting their assignment completed, that it's impactful to their learning and meaningful. Goal setting for cooperative learning is so important. Roseth Johnson and Johnson in 2008 identified a positive correlation between cooperative goal setting, positive peer relationships, and academic achievement. In other words, when we set those cooperative goals for our cooperative learning groups, we are fostering interpersonal relationships between the students in that group, and by and large, cooperative learning improves academic achievement. Slavin also is responsible for identifying the social cohesion that is scaffolded as we use cooperative learning in the classroom. They have found that cooperative learning is very supportive of interpersonal relationships and diverse learners' needs, so that each learner can be addressed in their specific learning style, their specific learning ability, and their aptitude to work together with others. I think that the addressing of diverse needs in the classroom is one great reason to use cooperative learning. To apply the model of cooperative learning in the classroom, I introduce to you my instructional scenario number 1. This is aimed for a science classroom on the grade level of 5th. The goal for the students would be to work in small groups to develop a model for the prevention of erosion due to heavy rainfall. And they would do this using supplies and materials that were provided to them by the teacher, and also some that maybe perhaps they collected, such as rocks, twigs, soil, things that we could gather on the playground, or something that a child could bring in from home. Just little things that they picked up and put into a Ziploc baggie. The students would use, like say, a plastic bin or a tote, add the soil inside, and they would try to come up with a way that when they created their support, designed their support for the soil, and they applied heavy rainfall by mimicking that, by pouring water over the top. We want to try to design and engineer and model this so that the erosion is prevented. I think this scenario is justified because it's hands-on and students can work very well collaboratively with this. They can try different ideas. They can bounce ideas off of each other. They can research together. I think this would be very engaging for them. I also think that it would be a lesson or an activity that would really have a personal connection for our students in our area anyway, in Northeast Louisiana, where heavy rainfall does happen and floods are kind of a way of life for us almost on a yearly basis. Our students, some of the students in my own classroom have been flooded out of their homes. They've had to relocate because of floodwaters. And so I think they would really personally connect with this and see the relevance and the need for addressing erosion in this way. I also think that our diverse learners would definitely be supported as they would be able to model their thoughts and ideas, whereas sometimes we might ask them to verbalize that, um, a complex idea, and they may have a hard time really articulating what they're trying to get across, but using materials to model, they could really show some complex thinking in their model. In this scenario, the teacher role would be that of a planner, a facilitator, a model for how do we carry out this work, and a supply manager. So to make sure that each group has the supplies that they need in order to be successful in the project. The students' role would be to be active participants. They could behave as scientists and investigators. Once they have kind of laid out a plan, they can function as an engineer or a designer to lay out that physical model. This type of cooperative learning lesson or activity really has a strong advantage in diverse learner support. Also, the engagement would be high because students would have that hands-on experience, engineering and using scientific discovery to solve a real-world problem. A downside could be it might be messy. We have the soil and we have twigs and sticks and rocks and things, and then we're pouring water, and then, of course, factor in a fifth grade science student. It could get messy. Another downside is the teacher would definitely need to have a firm structure laid out and ready before, during, and throughout this activity to kind of manage the chaos. And students may tend to get off track. They might begin to play with the materials rather than investigate, design, and engineer with the material. So just flowing through the room, the teacher would facilitate and redirect as needed. My instructional scenario number 2 is the content area of math, also a grade level of 5th grade. This little project, this cooperative learning project, would ask learners to work in small groups to design a moving truck to move household belongings of specified dimensions. The students would design and then create this moving truck using cardboard and basic classroom supplies such as scissors, tape, glue, such as that. I think this lesson is definitely a justified inclusion because learners would be able to draw from their prior knowledge of area and perimeter to apply that to the concept of volume. They would need to understand volume so that they could be sure that the moving truck they designed would be able to hold the contents of the items that they are given specifically in their instructions. I believe that the designing and the creating of a model truck would really suit the needs of this task. It would be hands-on, would be very engaging. Students would find it motivational because they love to build things, and it would be educational as well because they are taking their basic understanding of area and perimeter, apply that to volume, and then apply that to a real-world problem. The teacher roles for this activity are planner, facilitator, model, and supply manager once again, and the students will be active participants, mathematicians, engineers, and designers. I believe that one upside to this activity is that it would be extremely engaging to hold the learner's attention, and that multiple learning styles and abilities would be addressed through the design and build processes. Some disadvantages: it could be time consuming. Figuring out exactly what you need volume wise to hold the materials that belong in your house that is to be moved could take a bit of time, and then further constructing or building, designing and building that truck out of cardboard so that we would have a model to look at. It might take some time. And the grouping of students could prove challenging in some classrooms. For instance, I do have one class this year that they just bicker and fight. They just bicker and fight. And I have yet to find like the perfect thing to soothe all of their little frazzled nerves and to weave them together as a classroom family. I'm still trying, and I will not stop trying. Cooperative learning is going to help me here. I just know it. And we have reached the closure of my presentation. I thank you for watching, and I look forward to your feedback.